Sprout are something to behold on Mirage, that's for sure. I'm looking at how tight some of these setups into the executes were on the T side. CT side was pretty rock solid, and outside of running into some of the bomb sites a little bit too late here and there, they didn't seem to have too many issues up against Attax, which is kind of what Dean hypothesized, and I believe you as well, Wolfie, when we were heading into this series. Mirage seemed like a very, very strong ground for Sprout to be able to contest on. But even just in terms of the matchup between these two teams, I think we kind of got the result that we expected, right, Wolfie?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, production being a little bit premature, putting Sprout up as the series winner. I mean, we all thinking it after map 1, but it was just Mirage. It was the map picker Sprout that went their way. So they managed to take that one in pretty convincing fashion. And, you know, heading into Vertigo, it's not the best look in the world, is it? I mean, it's a scrappy map, sure. It's a map where your individuals can show up, but I'm worried. I'm concerned, to say the least, for alternate attacks. It definitely feels like they need some more players to show up.
Yeah, so, you know, you brought up the fact that we're heading through onto Vertigo. At least that is Attax's pick, and it's a map that both of these teams have kind of been playing. What are you waving for, Dean? You've been here the whole time. I don't know what you're on about, mate. Definitely didn't even miss a single second. Wasn't worried at all that I was going to have to cast for the second time this season. Either way, though, heading into Vertigo, you know, we've already talked through this series. You know what? First, I'll get your thoughts on Mirage and how you thought that all went, because, you know, it was pretty one-sided, but you know, there were a couple of nice setups here or there from Attax. You know, they had some moments of shining. I saw some really nice scout. What is it with these German AWPers and scout highlights, man? Like, I don't get it.
I don't know. There's just something special about them, apparently. Yeah, Panix was having some ridiculous rounds. There was that double he got that nearly gave them a chance to even end out that first half on a slightly better note. It seemed like initially it was kind of Sprout were just being given all of the room that they needed to do whatever they wanted. Eventually, it got to a point where Alternate weren't even trying to kind of counter a lot of the stuff. I think it was around like round 6. And at that point, Sprout just, I think, got a little bit too comfortable. Ended up obviously having those couple rounds where the time ended up going against them. And that's what gave Alternate the opening back in. As you said, their CT side did look a lot more impressive then, but it was just they were trying to keep the pressure on in those initial rounds as well, which made sense, because if they could have got going from those moments, then they would have had a real shot at making the comeback happen. But they kept just about falling short of them. By the time they really got the guns going, it was 14-5, I believe. And yeah, there was just no hope then. Maybe we can see something better on Vertigo here, but I do feel like it's another map where the players of Sprout with their firepower are probably just going to be able to come through. Maybe not in quite as one-sided of a fashion, but I do still believe that they're going to be able to come in and take this 2-0 at this point.
Well, Sprout's got pretty good stats records on a lot of maps. Look, Vertigo's down there towards the 50% margin there, Wolfie. But at the same time, I'm looking at their records. The last 4 games, they've won all of them, playing some, you know, pretty okay teams. Whereas Attax, they're a bit up and down on the map. You know, it's not that kind of like scissors, paper, rock pick that you want from an underdog in a matchup like this, where they can try to get a little bit of an edge or an into the series in terms of the map veto advantage. This is more sort of a bit of a sideways pick where you kind of hope if they have some decent preparation on Attacks and maybe a bit of an anti-strat that they can give this a bit of a crack, right?
Yeah, there's going to have to be something completely different coming out from alternate attacks, and that's the concerning thing for me. As you said, normally when teams pick Vertigo, it's because they've got an idea how to play it, or they've got individuals who they're happy can frag out on it. And for alternate attacks, only 2 players really showed up on map 1. Well, that's not going to be enough on Vertigo. And they've got some really recent roster changes, so you can't imagine that the strats are going to be all that in depth. I'm proved wrong. I really do. I hope this turns out to be a 3000 IQ pick, and they've, you know, a perfectly anti-stratted Sprout. They know exactly how to punish all the mistakes they make. But if that's not the case, I think map 2 is going to end up going very much the same way as Mirage did.
Yeah, potentially so. Do you have the same thoughts on that, Dean? I mean, we're into the best of 3s now in ESEA Premier. We've seen a whole lot of games already play out in that best of 3 fashion, and this is kind of like a must-win kind of map for, series rather, for Attax to avoid that relegation, as we did mention before. But when you're going into a best of 3 against a pretty good team in Sprout, who's got a pretty nice map pool, it's not really that easy, even if you did have some kind of a shot on Vertigo, right?
Yeah, I mean, as Wolfie said, it's not like it's a map that Alternate are completely unable to play, but there's the initial recent roster changes 2 months ago, and then there's the fact that they're not currently playing with Stefan either, so I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. Again, Stefan is a very important piece of this team to me. Just in general, with the previous lineup, he was more of a supportive role. He was someone you could rely on to get his job done, but he's taken a bit of a foot forward in this current roster, and at the moment, lacking him having Process, who isn't really given a lot to the team. I don't want to single out Process by any means, because he wasn't the sole player holding them back on Mirage. As was said by Wolfie, it seemed like we only really had two players actually showing up and fragging at all, and that was Panix and Crimbo. So yeah, they're going to need a lot more here in Vertigo. I'd like to be optimistic and say that we could still see them come into this, and I would like to see a more competitive game here, but I do feel like Sprout should have them in pretty much any regard, whether it comes down to just the strats that they'll have on the map with they've had a much more stable 5-man, of course, throughout these past 2 months, whether it comes down to the firepower across the board. Again, everyone was delivering on that first map. It just seems like everything is against Alternate at the moment, unfortunately. So yeah, it's going to be a rough one. As you said, there is a lot on the line. This is one that they do need to win if they want to avoid that relegation stages, and that's not going to be fun. They want to try and at least confirm their spot here so that they can stabilize their roster between seasons and then really show us what they're capable of in the next season. So I think that is the goal at the moment, and it might be slipping away from them.
Yeah, potentially. So, I mean, I was kind of wondering, there's teams where they'll be at the top of the table. I mean, particularly in the minor regions that I'm used to casting, they'll definitely let their foot off the gas pedal. I don't think that's what we saw from Sprout at all. They kind of seemed like they were in, I would almost say, kind of like navigating almost on autopilot through Mirage, just kind of running their set tactics. Everything looked pretty crisp. They were kind of just going through the motions there and not taking anything for granted. And I think even if we headed onto a third map, it's not going to be much of a different story, if anything, for Attax to try to pick up this win. So let's see if they can show us anything promising heading through onto Vertigo, and maybe if they get towards a map 3 here against Sprout, because even if they lose this series, I just want to see a little bit more from them so I can say that Alternate Attax is a team that even if they do go into some of those relegation series, they're going to have a shot at staying in Premier, looking forward into next season and developing this young roster of talent.
We all want to see them given that opportunity and given the chance, as we said, to be this feeder team for the German CS scene. But, well, we need some life from them here in this second map. Vertigo on the cards. Definitely a map where the individuals can do some damage. They're going to need their prep as well. Sprout opting to start CT side of things. And interestingly, Alternate already bringing a good banker utility into the pistol. Aggression down mid, though, and the punishment is immediate. 2 picks out of absolutely nowhere. And now the T side, they have to commit to this A bomb site. They know there's players behind them. They're actually going to try and double back and deal with Cressy. But there's 2 players with utility. There's 2 players who've sacrificed the armor to try and make this round a reality. And now they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Heavy rotation onto the A bomb site, of course, from the CT side. Cressy, he's cutting all these rotations out. And as the utility is starting to thrown onto this bomb site, starting to be thrown even, we'll get the English language working out at some point. They've got to try and get that bomb down, but Slacks removes 1. The Molotov, yes, it will trade, but still such a heavy advantage for the CT side as that bomb goes down.
Yeah, and I mean, Skrunk not even on full health. He doesn't have Kevlar, Process. He's going to need to do a lot in this one. And, well, he's found the first flanker, so Cressy does go down. The issue is the bomb already being stuck at this point, as Spitty does have the kit, and yeah, he just can't possibly make his way through all those lines of defense. It is going to be the pistol going the way of Sprout, as expected there from the kind of stance that they had, even when the push was coming in, and obviously the initial 2-man advantage they were able to find. So yeah, very strong pistol round from Sprout. Here on Vertigo to be able to kick things off on a solid note on your CT side as well is always fantastic. So that's obviously the goal. I'm not going to say, though, that it's a given by any means here, because we have Panix on a scout. And then, I mean, I suppose you have a couple of AKs as well. But it's Panix on that scout that I'm excited for, because he's been doing some nasty things, even on Mirage when they were struggling overall as a team. So we'll see what can be done right now. It is just the default coming in at the moment. Not even pushing up ramp quite yet. They are smoked off, I believe, for the moment. So just waiting that out. Looking to see if anyone's actually going to peek in. And, well, they might find it pretty soon. Spitty, Favin, and I believe one other player there, I think it might be Dennis, are also ready to peek in on ramp. And they're going to find all of Alternate pretty soon, actually, in this position.
Favin's going to be the one to catch the timing. Has Slacks behind him to back him up on the 4A4. And there you go. Pot flashed in. Trades are good. And this has been ripped apart, really. Slacks will try and get what he can done, and he's going to find another frag. Crimbo trying to drag something back for his team. It's not going to happen. Spitty finds the trade. Easy as you like. Sprout have their second round on the board, And that A ramp collapse just perfectly orchestrated by the CT side. Pop flashes in are brilliant, making it look all too easy. And alternate attacks, I think they need to start getting some momentum into this game very quickly. They need to get themselves back on that front foot, start putting that pressure back over on the CT side of Sprout. Otherwise, things are going to get awkward very quickly.
Yeah, speaking of very quickly, it's just Slacks on the MP9, who I believe actually pushed up on mid, was it? I was watching the perspective of Cressy there over on B. I didn't quite get to catch the actual kills, but he made it look easy. Only took 11 damage as he took out 3, builds up the bank on that MP9, and should ensure that the eco's not really going to cost them anything. There we go, Cressy hit the floor finally. That was a really long drop. I can see on my other screen now, though, what's actually going on, and it's just being cleaned up. There's not much trouble. Crystal on the Glock. I mean, 2 kills, though, for the eco there is actually a pretty decent result, I'd say, for alternate. It doesn't break the economy by any means, but it at least keeps Sprout in a position where they'll probably only have 1 buy left over. And maybe not even, actually, yeah. Because after Slacks goes in for the op, after Cressy buys up, they are actually going to be left with very little in the reserve onto a couple of these players. So there's a chance for Alternate to break them real quick right now.
The damage done could prove to be significant.
Oh, what's going on?
Oh, mate. It casting off 2 screens is great fun. Spinny, though, straight through the smoke, finds 1. Nice trade.
Oh.
Crystal does get the damage through the obscurity of the smoke wall. Have taken a lot of nade damage in response. Crystal and Panics both tagged up significantly. Alternate attacks. A-ramp clearly in an area they're looking to target. Slacks is posted in a very aggressive spot, but does well. Flicks across to deal with Crimbo, and again, the numbers being thinned very early on for the T side. Slacks sticking around as well. Finds himself another. Should not be getting this much done by any means, and Panics and Scrunk are left to try and pick up the pieces. They've gone for this A-ramp control again. They have a molly to potentially clear Faven out, but it's not going to land, and instead the spray down will connect. Trade, again, at least comes through. I'm looking for silver linings, but it's Scrunk in the 3-on-1 regardless. Spotted out on that A-ramp. Cressy will accelerate his rotation around, and Slacks, well, he'll just keep on fragging. 3 in the round, Sprout on 4. And this is the point where I'd like to see alternate attacks already taking a timeout, right? I want to see them slowing this right down because it is getting very awkward very quickly.
Yeah, especially with the context of the previous map as well being taken into consideration. I'd like to see the pause as well. They can't even go for the buy here, so I'm not against them just getting what they can in this one. 1 hero rifle actually coming out on Crystal, which is an interesting choice. I suppose you can do with him just on the pistol and some nades then into the gun round because he's probably going to be towards the back of the pack anyway. But yeah, we'll see whether it can actually be made worthwhile in this one or not. Still, though, yeah, they don't have a lot to work with in this round, so we'll probably, or rather hopefully, see the pause then before this next gun round. Obviously, it'd be fantastic if Alternate could win this one, and probably at that point they wouldn't be pausing, but, I mean, the chances of that, not amazing. The Deagles, we'll see what can be done. The AK for Crystal, and a very slow hold at the moment until that initial aggression comes in from Faven, and, well, yeah, Crystal didn't look quite ready for it, but he was given a bit of warning there as his teammates found the initial contact, and they've also actually caught the player there who was pushed up on the side alley, so they forced him back away. A great first opening, but it's still not going to be easy at all getting into this bomb site.
It is only the MP9, and with 3 CT players here on the bomb site, Slacks opens things up, grabs himself the second from the self-boost as well. Nice frag from Crystal, looking to open things up. He's running out of teammates, though. Spray down traded. And 2-on-1, Slacks has got to be a little bit cautious here. 1 shot to the chest with the Deagle will finish the job. So Bomb should at least be able to go down in the 2-on-1. Utility limited as well. Scrunk, if he can isolate these fights, it's winnable. Cressy, though, will join his AWPer, making his way over those boxes, clearing the angles. There's the frag from Scrunk, and he's got the second as well. The clutch up comes through, and alternate attacks, they had no business winning that round. No firepower, 1 hero AK, and somehow they get it over the line.
Okay, yeah, I mean, it's these rounds where they shouldn't be winning. It does make some sense with their name being alternate attacks. It's not the traditional rounds that they win, it's those alternate approaches, yeah. I'm sorry. They haven't quite broke the money as Sprout, but I mean, they've left them with some limitations already on this buy. And there we go. Panics has been able to even catch that mid push coming in from Faven. So a big chance. Yeah, alternate winning out that previous round, it is huge. If they manage to take this one, suddenly they go up towards 3. And then, yeah, they could really take some control back depending on how that next gun round was to go as well. And that's what you need when you're here on the T side of Vertigo. Cressy, though, does get flashed over. It almost looked like he had the drop on Process. But no, Crimbo was there to give the assistance that was needed. So a 5-on-3. Nade comes back in return, so Crimbo's pretty low at this point, but they've got the numbers. And as we can see, they are just looking to move back and ideally group up together. We are seeing a bit of a push in on mid, which could be dangerous. Slack's just backing away. He was initially in a position where he might have got caught, but now he's actually positioned, I was going to say, well towards connector to watch this mid push out. But no, they've for now abandoned this. So this could be a B split that they won't know about until Dennis pretty much gets caught.
I think they're looking for the gamble stack save at this point, in all honesty. Dennis is going to double back off the sound cues, but he's going to be taken down. Crystal, it's a freebie in all reality. And yeah, Slacks and Spiddy shouldn't be any way they can get back into this one. Nice frag to take out Scrunk. Potentially an AK on offer that Spiddy is going to look to gobble up, but it is going to be the save for the CT side off the back of losing to those upgraded pistols, the Hero AK. The economy, very much a consideration for Sprout, and they're just going to post up. Alternate Attacks, not too keen to hunt things down either. Not a whole lot of bank on their side of things. Panics, the hero of the hour, has some good cash on him, but the rest of the team in very dire straits. So they'll be more interested in saving their rifles than they will catching any of these CT players. So an AWP and an AK will carry forward into the next round, and well, Sprout will have some decisions to make around them. Actually saving an AUG onto Crystal as well. That's an interesting call. I wonder where he's going to look to use that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love the AUG on the T side. It's not great, especially if you're entering and stuff, but I suppose in the after plants it'll be pretty solid. Holding the ramp peak as well in the initial moments, it'll also be pretty useful if you have the CTs pushing in. So yeah, I mean, of all the maps you could probably bring it out, you could use it on the T side rather. It's probably one of the better ones alongside like maybe a train. So we'll see. Mid push coming in again. This time it's actually back up though, as the op is here for Slacks, and well, he misses the shot. Isn't actually able to connect. They also do know Dennis is up close, and a wall bang from Process is going to go ahead and deal with that issue. So yeah, again, the man advantage early on does go the way of Alternate. And we're not really expecting much, to be fair. Where did Crystal manage to catch that kill? It was over on the ramp, I believe, and indeed he does catch Spiddy. So quick two-man advantage, full ramp control in favor of Alternate. There shouldn't be much resistance at all now being put up, especially with Slacks already being low. Even if he catches one, the trade should be there.
Yeah, and that molly as well, going to start to flush him out of things. He's trying to play everything he can with this AWP, but he's got to be so cautious. Actually going to give it up. I like the idea from Favon. Take the HP, take the fight, but as he's punished by Panic, Slacks is going to grab it right back off his fallen teammate, and I think he's going to look for the exact same thing, right? Try and save that AWP forward yet again. Everybody else full saved around those two saved rifles. Cressy trying to crouch down in the corner, tagged very low indeed, and Process will finish him off. He's just there to buy time, in all honesty. He just needs to stay alive as long as possible, let Slacks get as much distance between him and the T side as possible, but Alternate Attacks, they're not going to go quietly, let's put it that way. All 5 players kept up despite the saved AWP and the saved rifle. Slacks will be allowed to save that AWP once again, however, so there will be that firepower moving forward. Lost bonus, a couple of rounds. Should backbone a buy? I mean, they're going to be short on utility if they want to make it work, and actually that frag is everything. Crystal at the last second hunts down Slacks, and now Sprout have got a big call to make.
Yeah, that's a bit of an ouch. They're still going to go for it, but they're not going to have enough available, unfortunately, and the nades are going to be incredibly limited. Slacks is on one, actually, at the moment, 13-5. Would have been great if we were stuck on him for a while. I think we're fixed and back up and running now anyway. Yeah. That's unfortunate. The hood, it's awkward, guys, trust me. Whenever I've had issues on my own, whenever I'm running the hood, if it messes up, yeah, there's not much you can do other than a full restart, which is hard to do while you're in the middle of the map. So good work on the production, getting us fixed up and back running anyway. But yeah, now we've got a gun round here that really lacks for Sprout. They've got one kit at least, but that's with them pretty much sacrificing all of the nades. They've barely got the smokes. They've got 4 of them. They've got 3 flashes and 1 molly. That is very, very little, especially on a map like Vertigo where you want to be taking this control. After we see them throw these smokes and flashes out now on ramp especially, they will have basically nothing left over to actually keep on holding onto these positions. So yeah, we're seeing a bit more of a passive approach rather. At least over on the ramp, that is. We have Cressy pushed up on B, somewhere where you can hold on to a little bit easier. The 1 smoke down, then you have control, the player up above being Dennis, who's ready, as this push is also prepping for Alternate. So we are going to find the exchange coming in. Oh yeah, baits in. I think they saw the shadow with Dennis. They were both looking up. Cressy pops out and just sprays down 2 for free. And well, now they've been denied full control on the B side of the map, so they're being forced to reconsider the plan. And Well, that involves pushing pretty much everywhere that they can, and that doesn't work for Process. Slacks catches him on mid. He doesn't care he was lacking the up. Going to go ahead and get a bit of an upgrade even to that AK, and, well, Panics and Skrunk, if they could get a couple of kills and do some damage, that would be fantastic, because Alternate themselves do have money to rebuy in. Oh, nearly even catching the boost there.
Read it well, and actually they know they can get aggressive off the back of it, but Spiddy's ready. Another frag goes the way of the CT side, and Panics, well, he's left panicking indeed, wondering where on earth his teammates have got to. Money is decent, can afford to try and do some damage to the CT side, and a couple of frags would potentially start to put that economy on the back foot. Nice shot for the first, gets his opportunity for the second, but this flank coming through is going to deal with him. And Slacks should be able to get his big green back in his hands. Indeed, Spiddy will be the man to save it across. They're going to keep the AK in hand. And again, it feels like for a few rounds there, Sprout took their foot off the gas, right? They weren't quite playing to the same level they have been in these initial phases, but then the setups come through. Then Cressy pops off, and as quickly as you were starting to build up a little bit of hope for alternate attacks, it is ripped out of your still beating heart. And, well, they've got the buy at least. They have got some utility behind it as well. Slacks is going to get his chance. Tag onto the first man. Nade to follow it up as well. Make sure he's not being rushed down initially. Fortunate not to get the shot. I think it was through the wall he found the connection, so not quite getting the frag, but it is going to funnel alternate attacks in towards this B bomb site and in towards Cressy. He's done a good job of holding this down so far. Process trying to catch a timing has been spotted. That's the A site fake gone immediately, and this has to be the B commitment now. They haven't got any other presence to work with. Crimbo, he'll get boosted up behind the wood. The Molotov actually flushing him out, though. Second molly down the stairs to make it even more complicated. There's a lot of damage on the board before alternate attacks have even got into the site.
Indeed. Trying to boost Crimbo up, hoping he's going to be able to maybe catch a player off guard, but at the moment he is just waiting for his teammates to start putting down those nades. So yeah, they're going to need crisp, clean entries on this pretty much. You have Dennis in the back, you have Cressy up close as well, and a quick rotation which is on the way there with the AUG coming in from Spiddy, but they have no idea Crimbo was already up close. He doesn't even actually get that kill. It was Skrunk instead, and well, that's the only frag they've been able to find on this push. Panics, maybe panicking a little bit, accidentally stepped off and fell down, and yeah, at this point, it's all about that op save once again. There's not money really available either for Sprout to hunt it down, so I wouldn't imagine they're going to come in too aggressively. They do drop down and check these close angles, but yeah, you don't want to be running towards an op now that's been given time to post up somewhere. Hang on to these 4 weapons, ensure that your CT economy is going to be stabilizing a little bit, and obviously aim for an incredibly strong CT side, because 6 rounds is already pretty decent here.
I don't think we can bring the Panics panicking thing out twice in 2 rounds. That just feels excessive, you know what I mean? Too many dad jokes and all that, but...
He fell off, though. Come on.
He did fall off. It was unfortunate. Your one was better than my one, but because I'd already committed previous round, you got to be careful. You got to be careful, Dean. And, well, alternate attacks, they would do well to be careful. They're, again, falling into almost the same patterns that we saw on Mirage, right? Sprout, initially very strong, let off the gas a little bit. Alternate attacks get back into things, but then it's straight back to winning ways for Sprout. And this is the problem. Alternate attacks need to work out a way to break the CT roster, and that's not it. Dennis, aggressive through middle, takes the pick on Crystal and Ladder. And once again, almost immediately, right, barely 5 seconds into this round, the T side, they're down a man. They're trying to recover what they can. I think Skrunk wants to try and get that AK-47 if it's at all possible. They'll queue up towards A. Nice spray down from Process. We'll actually find the initial connection, and there's some isolated players if they can find them here. Favon pushed up on the catwalk, but he's going to get his timing for free. Crimbo caught as he tries to wait for a pop flash. As the trades come through, again, so much nade damage done. Process down on 40 HP. He's at least taking catwalk control, and Favon may well swing into him. Indeed, he will. So the frag's given back, and alternate attacks making a bit of a run of this. They don't have to commit, but again, immediately the trade comes through. I didn't even see it. Slacks gets his pick. He wants more as well. Will be flashed off his favorite angle. Skrunk's molly will take his teammate down. There's damage on the board for alternate attacks to try and make something of this, but once again, they're walking straight into the stack. Everybody's here for Sprout. Bomb does get dialed in. Wallbang trying to connect. Slacks doesn't have the lineup, but the Molotov does, and there's the finish. So clean again from Sprout. It does get a little scrappy in the mid-round, but they just seem to be on a different level at the moment, right? The firepower of the individuals is just coming through, and it's dragging them across the finish line time and time again.
Yeah, and even when they're in positions where they don't necessarily need to keep the pressure on, they do, which, I mean, can backfire at points, but when you're against a team that you are favored against like this, it can stop them from ever getting comfortable. And that does kind of seem to be the case, as you said, with these middle rounds, especially being incredibly scrappy from Sprout, because they know this is where their experience is going to help them actually win out. And, well, yeah, pretty good so far from them. 7-3 here on the CT side. Alternate at this point would probably be aiming to take it up to at least 7, preferably all 8 rounds if they could. 5 in a row, though, it's going to be tough. And the first of those rounds, I mean, look at this buy. 2 AKs, a scout, and a couple of deagles. It's not where you want to be, where you're in a position where losing this also just puts you on an eco den. And then suddenly Sprout would be up towards 9 rounds already. Things have gotten more than just out of control right now.
You can see how afraid Alternate are, right? Their A ramp take, so cautious, so passive, and actually it's the mid-round retake coming in from Sprout. Nice shots from Spiddy and Fathom to open things up. They want more blood, and well, Crystal's going to give it to them. Fathom playing the corners, playing these angles on the smokes, and the trades are just too good. Scrunk, he only had the scout. He was not meant to be the clutch man, and Fathom will remove him as well. A triple kill from him, and that is just the perfect counter from Sprout. I'm almost tempted to say it's unfortunate from Alternate, but it looked like they had a read. They rotated heavily, pop flash in for the mid-round retake, and while they catch everybody on Alternate Attacks napping.
Basically, that's what it seemed like. There really wasn't much of a fight put up at all. I mean, now it's the half buy at least, because they do have a little bit of loss bonus going, but yeah, as I said, that means most likely 9 rounds here already for Sprout, and that is just too much. Even if they end up losing the remaining 3 rounds, at that point, they still have a fantastic half. Decent trade by Scrunk. Okay, maybe something can be done here. Yeah, Crimbo ends up ripping off the head of Cressy. This should give them access to a bomb plant, which is going to make sure everything is available in this next buy round, but it would be amazing if they could steal this one away. And it is possible. Crimbo on the AK. You do have Process low, but Crystal also looking pretty healthy. And he's off at the moment lurking, I believe. I think trying to make his way back around towards the stairs. Yeah, actually expecting a flanker even potentially to come in. Not currently the case, though. They are all sticking together. You have the smoke going over, and Molly as well towards the bomb site, I believe, that's going to come in. Sprout will just look to get moving forward as this flash is what really kicks things off. Here we go. Let's see. Process up close. He's on low health. If he could take at least one, that would be huge. He's not able. And while Crystal was able to actually get one on the P250 around the edge of the smoke, you don't see that AK being able to find anything at all. I think he was blind initially as the push was coming in, so wasn't quite ready for it and was just suddenly overwhelmed then by all 3 CTs. So yeah, fantastic retake from Sprout. It got a little dodgy, but I don't even think they care about giving away the bomb plant at this point because, as I said, they've already got such a fantastic CT side.
Cutting it very fine on the time, I do have to say. That defuse got very narrow. I think they committed pretty much at the point where half of the bomb had ticked down. They decided they were going to take that bomb site. So, not the cleanest of looks for Sprout. It has been something that they've really made an issue for themselves, right, as they do take the time out. They've been running the clock very low. We saw it punishing them on Mirage, and well, they get away with it this time, and as a result, they're going to go big. Double AWP setup. Slacks and Cressy to pull it out against what, well, you've got to imagine would be one of the last full buys of the half for Alternate Attack. So if Sprout get this one over the line, it really does become a dire half for that T side. Alternate Attacks, this is their map pick. This was their opportunity to take the fight to Sprout, and at least at the moment, that is not happening. Slacks and Spiddy just tearing it up on the CT side.
Yeah, this is going to absolutely ruin their round difference as well. They were at minus 16, I believe, before. And yeah, with the performance they've given us so far, I got 6, I believe, on Mirage. If they aren't able to step it up here on Vertigo, and their round difference as well isn't going to be looking good, which doesn't help because I believe at that point then, if Sangal were able to win their next game, they could actually hop up above them and put Alternate into pretty much, I think it'd be instant relegation then, would it?
Oof.
So yeah, things could get a little bit scary. As I said, not much of a math man, so don't believe me. I'm a madman, not a math man, though. But here we go. The double up setup in play for Sprout. Slacks and Cressy rocking them. And then you've got Panics, obviously, over on the alternate side. And, well, they've actually caught Spiddy, taking the aggressive angle there, boosted up on the bomb site. Process, I think it was just as the smoke faded away, caught Vision. They actually nearly lined up even for Slacks. And that first shot was impressive enough as is. Tries to follow up. Crimbo taking the exact same angle, not learning from his teammates' mistakes, and, well, not suffering the same fate so far anyway, and he's kept Slacks incredibly busy as the bomb was going down. Oh, they're just lining up. No way he expects Favin. I don't think they have seen him at all. They're actually hugging at this point.
Oh, the timing. They've actually transitioned through. Favin's got the backstab lined up if he catches a nice timing here. Surely they'll check this now, though. They know that this timing is awkward. Faven, awkward spray doesn't connect, and he's going to go down. That could be critical in the context of the round. Process will go to clear out the plant, and there you go. Alternate attacks again, thriving in this chaos. The Molotov is what finishes the job for Dennis, but it's a fourth round. It's something. It's an economic reset for Sprout as well. It's not a good look for them. Slacks, this shot was just nasty. If he connects the second as well, it's done, but can't quite find his man. And from there, well, we all know what happens on Vertigo once you've got that A-bomb site. Just sheer chaos across the board, gets it over the line, and puts Sprout under a little bit of pressure. Spiddy down on that P250, a FAMAS for Cressy. They're looking to take the fight very proactively here, but the flash is blinding players up. Spiddy and Fathom both tagged up. Pressure on Cressy. Boost over the top from Panics doesn't land, and that's a perfect entry. Traded immediately by the nades, however. It is just the P250 that's lost, so I think Sprout will take that opening. Now they've got to make something of it.
Yeah, I mean, the health is looking a little bit rough even for Alternate at the moment. Obviously, Favin's not perfect himself, and, well, he's actually the one who gets found there by Crystal. But now you've got Crystal on 6 HP as well. 20 on Crimbo, Process 64. Not the worst position, but what I'm basically pointing out is that this could happen. Kills could very quickly swing back with these individual fights being found, because they weren't even all grouped up. We only have now that they're grouping up on ramp, and, well, that's a big find. Slacks goes down. There's one more player around the bomb site. That's Dennis. And I was going to say, I don't know how much he really wants to challenge this, so he does back off, and now he's going to wait for Cressy to come around on that flank. They don't currently have a defuse kit in their possession, though. So I'm wondering if there is one nearby to be picked up.
They've got to get a shift on, if not. Dennis will start to clear his corners. Cressy, oh, that's so awkward. Process just bunny hopping across the A ramp, and they can take this fight together now. The dinks will come through. Dennis is left in this 1-on-2 clutch. He knows both players are towards the ramp. Baits out the peak, but can only find one. The spray won't quite connect. It goes down to the wire again, down to the last man, but alternate attacks, they get it over the line. And as a result, they've got a perfect springboard to get a 9-6 half, which, honestly, that would be fantastic, considering how dominant Sprout have looked in places. The economy has just betrayed them right at the death here. 2 FAMAS, an MP9, and a couple of Deagles. All they have to try and have a say, to try and get double digits in the first half. Nice nade onto Faven as well to open things up. He goes down to 46, and all that pressure that we spoke about that was piling up on alternate attacks, it has just flipped. It's all on Sprout to try and make something of this last round.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think Sprout will be unhappy, though, even if they don't get this final round. As you said, it puts Alternate in a much better position than they ever looked like they were going to be, and they have done a fantastic job with recovering 2-6. Obviously, as long as they do manage to get that number. But, yeah, I still don't think Sprout are going to be incredibly worried by any means with 9 here on their CT side. Obviously, it does give a chance maybe for Alternate to come alive early on that second half, and then at that point, after the first gun round, things could be in their favor even. So there would be maybe a slight bit of worry. But where are we seeing this exchange? Yeah, actually pushing up over towards B, that was. Dennis only with the MP9, I believe, going to get caught by Crimbo. So early man advantage does go the way of alternate attacks. They've got, at the moment, pretty much just a default split across the map. They haven't actually moved for too much control even.
Nice opening pick, and it's a good chunk of the firepower as well. One of those FAMAS removed from the equation. You could see them trying to recover it on Cressy, but it's not going to happen. He's going to have to stick on the MP9, and over on A, the pressure's starting to ramp up. It's only the Deagles. Nice tag, sure, but Spiddy can't find any frags, and now all on Slacks. He takes one man down, but he's on 19 HP. Resets his angle. He's being chased by the low HP Crimbo, who will find his shot, and this round's starting to fall apart again. Faven does what he can on the backstab to find one. He needs so much more. This doesn't look like it's been calmed. It's actually Cressy on the MP9 to trade things down. And this health now surely becomes critical. So low. He finds the first. Crimbo has only got 8 HP. He's only got 5 seconds. He's got to take this fight. 3, 2, 1. He's looking for the spray, and it's not going to land. CT side will have their lead at the half. Just about 10-5. Sprout do get their double digits, and alternate attacks after the break are going to need a comeback.
I'm just trying to learn from all the things that I've been told. I'm gonna paint a new reality. It Doesn't take a lot to turn a person into gold. Yeah, I've been getting good at alchemy. And you can stay inside in the dark, but without it, you never let go. And when you're done with hiding and you wanna have control, you and I can find a perfect fantasy. Stepped out looking like a small fire, half glass that are filled with desire. Head down, but no, I can't deny it. Life is fun when you're a liar.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to a very scrappy Vertigo, shall we say. Sprout 10-5 up at the half on alternate attacks map pick, looking to make it 2-0 here. And, well, Dean, I'm starting to struggle to see a way back into this one for alternate attacks.
I've got to agree. It did look like we were getting a big sign of life from them there as they kind of woke up in the middle of the half, but obviously falling off, losing those final 2 rounds. Given the 10-5 half over the Sprout, it's just too much for me. Even if the pistol goes the way of alternate, they still need to find early success in that first gun round, then they need to take the second gun round as well, and we just haven't seen anything from them so far in this series that proves to me that they're going to be able to do it. Again, I do feel like not having Stefan is a pretty big knock. I don't know, have they officially brought in Process or not? He's got the logo and all on at the moment, so maybe. But again, that would mean another recent change that would obviously throw things off a little bit from the practice they've even been doing over the past couple months since bringing in Panics and Crimbo. So yeah, I think we're kind of still on the thought train that we were on initially, was that Sprout we're going to get this 2-0. The score is looking towards it at the moment, and well, we'll see how it goes in this pistol round. A little bit of a slower approach by Sprout. It looks like they're actually expecting the ramp aggression to come in. Not the case for alternate, but they do have a few players around here. And actually, no, never mind. You do have Panics. Oh no, he's not pushed out. Never mind.
Is he on the other side of the wall? Yeah,
he's
tucked into the corner.
Just the
I was
X-ray
about to
confusing
say.
me. I was thinking, how is he so high?
It's a good
really
angle,
tall.
though. I like the idea of picking a CZ up. I don't think I've seen that before. He actually gets the armor as well, dropped across, so plenty of potential to do damage, and I'm starting to wonder if it's a read, because Sprout are committing pretty heavily to this catwalk play. Crossfire well set up between Process and Panics. Utility will start to come in. Process should be flushed out of his angle, but Panics on this CZ lines them up. 2, 3 in quick succession, and Skrunk is there to find the 4th. Spiddy, his teammates have disappeared from this round from the server, and it's a 1v4 to contend with. He's got a couple of dinks on the board now as he does find the second onto Crystal. The whole CT side queued up in towards the site itself. Crimbo actually going to start aggressing as well over the catwalk. Nice shot for the first. Skrunk eluding his crosshair. Does go down. And Crimbo's got to be cautious now. He's the only player with health, and he will get the frag. Alternate attacks. We were talking about it in the break. The pistol really essential. They do get it on the board. No bomb plant. But it looks like Spiddy is keen to force already. Picks him up the AK. Goes down to $100, so no armor. and actually drops it straight over to Slacks.
What an insane 3K from Panics, though. You had pointed out, I love the position he's taken, and, well, he liked the two, but he decided he wanted to go even a bit more forward and just caught the absolute perfect time, and got a bit too close to my liking, though. They definitely gave Speedy over a few chances. As you said, though, it is the Force Spy coming back in now. Thanks to those kills that were found, Speedy's able to drop the one rifle, but there was no bomb plant, so they have barely anything behind it. Well, deagles across the board, but only a few of those players even having the Kevlar to support it, and then a single smoke. So this is not the buy you normally expect to be coming out on that second round of the T side, because when they get the bomb down, you have multiple rifles and everything. No, this is a little bit more standard. It feels like the olden days in terms of what Alternate actually have to face off against, rather. And I think they realize that themselves. Look how heavy they've gone on the SMGs. This does kind of scare me, though. 5 MP9s. Is there even enough kills to go around to make this all that worthwhile? Obviously, when you count the next round, then when they're up against the Eco, that's kind of the case. But, I mean, it's risky either way. They won't be aware they're up against this AK, and it could catch them on the initial exchange.
You got to get this round over the line first, haven't you? And it definitely feels like they've prioritized the utility. Plenty of nades across the board, but with this one smoke going down, Sprout will have to commit. They've got all 5 players queued up on this A ramp. It's going to be no messing about, and we know full well what these Deagles can do given an opportunity, right? Up close and personal, potential to really do some damage. Looking for the straight bomb plant here. Alternate attacks. That's a nice lineup on the molly. Trying to deny it. Faven does have to back out for a split second. Actually wants to get the bomb onto one of these players with a deagle as Scrunk spots out his first man. Damage through the smoke is significant. Slacks and Spiddy both desperately know the nades to follow up as well. Alternate attacks, they're trying to use that utility to good effect. Smokes will now start to isolate these fights. It's going to be a straight 5-on-5 retake, straight back to the olden days of Vertigo. Faven, he's in a good spot here. AK in hand, he's actually going to try and boost up over the top of these smokes, and the angles are good. Dennis opens things up. 2 frags in quick succession before the trade, and now this bomb plant. Oh, the strafe round, the punishment. That is beautiful stuff from Faven, and he knows where Panics is as well. This can't happen. Not like this. Crimbo on 44 HP in the 1v3. He's switched out to the CZ to try and deal with Spiddy on low HP. He'll find that frag, sure, but the round's going away regardless. Faven, the hero AK, gets 3. And Sprout, they respond immediately. CT side in pieces.
Damn. Okay, yeah. I mean, as you said, that strafe around from Faven was absolutely fantastic to catch the player on towards the bomb site, and then even staying alive, coming back over, keeping the player pinned in a sandbags. He done what was needed with that one hero rifle, able to come through with a massive 3K. They knock Alternate now down onto a very weak Force Spy of their own, and Sprout have a chance to just run away with this now and bring it right towards the finish line almost, or at least get incredibly close before there is a gun round for Alternate, which would probably be their only one by that point. So yeah, they kind of need to make their own Force by work here in return. Panics on the scout. That's something I'm excited to see. Obviously back on Mirage, he had quite a few solid rounds on that. It was over on the T side, I think, more so. Well, he had that one round in the last round of the CT side where he got that insane double. Yeah, he's been, again, pretty quiet on this map in most regards whenever he's had the op and such to actually play with. And, well, the scout, why doesn't he just buy a scout all the time? I don't understand. He goes ahead and rips off the head of Spiddy. Does so very quickly. It makes sense. He's going to continue to face at this point, and he's going to find Slacks up close, and then a couple players who are ready to swing off of that contact, and it's not even needed. Slacks just takes the kill himself. Scrunk forced back by the molly. The ramp control's being taken by Sprout, and this is going to be a tough hold now for Alternate.
Eagles up close and personal can do the work. We've seen it time and time again, but pot flashing Scrunk in. He doesn't get anything done at all. Cressy there with the punishment, and they know Process is here. They've spotted him. He's trying to get away from it. It's not going to happen. Crystal and Crimbo, all that remain of this Force Spy from the CT side. Nice shot, at least for now. Crystal trying to drag this one back into contention. He's going to get aggressive as well. Faven on half HP gives him the bomb and an AK hand-delivered. Cressy's only got half his health to work with. If they can take out the high HP player, this suddenly becomes viable. And with 20 seconds left, Sprout are going to be forced to commit here. Their timings are going to have to be flawless. And Cressy, he's being forced off his fight. 13 seconds, he goes down. Crystal trying to do it all. And it Slacks in the one-on-one. Grabs himself the bomb. Does he go through the smoke? Does he try and deny? He's going to push for the AK, but doesn't actually commit. And now it's all on these timings. Round the smoke, it's awkward, and Slacks connects. Oh, they make it awkward, Sprout. Oh, they make it difficult, but they get their 12th round on the board. And once again, we see Alternate Attacks looking at a reset. They'll want to commit to this. They'll want to force buy because they know they took it down to the last man. But I don't think the economy allows them to.
No, if you want to have a gun round at all, you do just have to take the one eco here, and that's unfortunate. I mean, Panics gave them a solid opening on the scout. Crystal gave it his all then on that A-hold as well, but they do just fall short. Slacks being the man who, at the moment, is really stepping up for Sprout. I think he's at 22 frags. I think it was like 8 deaths as well, or something along those lines. Anyway, yeah, 22 and 9. We're actually getting the catch right there. So yeah, he's quite a bit ahead of everyone else. He's definitely delivering in this matchup. We said Panics needed to be able to step up as well on the up once that comes back into play to challenge him. And well, it wasn't happening in this round, obviously with the eco, and Dennis just lines them up. They tried to at least work those pistols together. Something you mentioned earlier is when you have these weaker weapons, you want to try and combine that firepower. And I like that they attempted it by just stacking up the bomb site, but apparently it was no issue for Dennis. Primbo, can he get a Zeus kill? Will they exit back in this direction? It actually looks like they probably will eventually. Yeah, they've spotted him. Did they expect the Zeus? I mean, the Mac-10 can just kind of keep the distance, so yeah, there's no issue at all for Cressy. Zeus taken away, even shot it, comes over and spams the body. Like, were you really trying to Zeus me?
Oh, you gotta love it, man. The little bit of BM just to really rub it in. As we said, this is a Germany grudge match, right? These are two German teams.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I mean, you kind of had Sprout steal some of their players a couple months ago
exactly.
as well. So.
I was about to say that there's definitely a rivalry here somewhere. Well, Sprout are doing their best to get hyped up by it. Bai comes in for the CT side. Panics does get that big green. Can't land his first shot, though. Ability is decent for the CT side, and it is going to start chipping away at these players early. The Molotov follows the nade. Forces a smoke out from the T side to try and defend themselves. Heavy queue up towards this B bomb site, and Slacks, he's going to get punished, surely. Yeah, Process gets him in towards mid. The flank's gone. This is now just a straight B hit. There's nothing else to it. Dennis surely showed his head there. Wasn't crouched for a split second as he queued up. And Crimbo, oh, this could be everything. The spam through, he gets one. Well traded at least, but there's Crystal to back his teammate up. And Sprout, they tried something a little different. They tried to head towards that B bomb site. It has not worked out. Crystal still a little isolated, will be caught in transition, goes down to 41, but he's got out of dodge okay, and now those teammates can start to flood into this bomb site as Spiddy and Favon desperate to make something of this. Nice pop flash. They've got 2 players now stuck behind first Jennies, and they line up. I think that was even the collateral. The AWP just goes wandering in. Spiddy gets his 3rd, and somehow Sprout have brought this back into the 1-on-2. Scrunk to try and clutch things out, but Spiddy is going to catch him already. The information is there. The spray down is as well. It's 14 for Sprout. And how do they bail themselves out of these situations time and time again? Dean, explain it to me, man.
One down. Spiddy just click mouse one real good. That's exactly what happened right there. That lineup, though, what was up with Panics as well? Just coming back into the bomb site at that point. He just ran in. Seemed to think Spiddy would continue pushing up around the left side of the generator. That obviously didn't happen. I feel like at that point when you're down in the 2-on-2, you should just wait it out and try and play alongside your teammate and probably just concede the bomb plant. Obviously, you can try and make that hero play, but we seen it's a risk and it didn't quite pay off for them. Panics, though, he's going to fire back here. A little bit angry, maybe. Again, it's the scout where he finds most of his success, which is really, really strange. Well, maybe not most of it, but he does find success with it every time he pulls it out, I guess is the better way to put it.
Yeah. Definitely feels like his hero weapon. Favon, though, there's the first man. Scrunk goes down. Nice trade, nice response, and Panics. You can see how desperate he is to aggress on that, right? He wants to try and push into the angle, wants to try and get something done. Molotov will prevent him from doing so, as Cressy does just dismiss of the AK in mid, making sure it's not recoverable. Nice setup, stacked over on this A-bomb site for now. Well, Favon may get his opportunity here. Crystal boosted up. Does expose the headshot angle. Favon not going to clear it, though. And as he makes his way, if he pushes up catwalk here, he's in trouble. Teammates not really with him. They instead want to probe over towards this B bomb site. Crimbo, very isolated figure there. Going to be difficult for him to get anything done. I think he's just shoulder peeking with the utility. Going to drop it and run at the first sign of trouble. Does have support starting to rotate in the form of Process, but that frag has to drag some rotations back towards A. Panics. He'll be kept busy, and they can start to queue things up here. Cressy behind the wood, has teammates behind him. They're clearing the close angles. There is 2 FAMAS here, but they need some very quick frags to make this viable. They're queuing up as the hit starts to come in. Spiddy, Molly isolates Crimbo. He goes down. They've spotted the last man in the form of Process as well. Panics is nowhere to be found. He's hightailing it over it to try and make something of it, but it's all him. He's 4v1, 6 seconds left. The bomb does go down. Well, the hunt for that scout commences.
Oh, and well, Panic's not even going to get a chance to save it. looks in towards the spawn. That's when Favin creeps in from A, and well, we've got a 15-6, a pretty straightforward round right there from Sprout. Nothing too special, just finding the picks, moving in towards B, and well, yeah, as you said, over these last couple of rounds have swapped things up a little bit. We're hitting that B bomb site a little bit more, and at the moment, anyway, alternate, they do seem to be struggling with holding it off. And considering now their buy is actually incredibly limited in terms of firepower anyway, I don't think it's going to get any easier for them. They've got a scout, 2 MP9s, and then actually 3 MP9s. They've decent nades as well, so I guess that is a pretty big plus for them, especially as they look to try and go a bit more aggressive around the ramp right now. So it will allow for them to get quite a bit of control, and you need that without the kits especially. Finding an opening kill, though, would be the biggest success, I would say, in these opening moments, and well, it's not being given over to them. Sprout are willing to just fall back, concede that ramp control, and then maybe move back in here a little bit later then, when a lot of those nades and such have actually been used up for alternate. We're actually seeing fights around mid, though. Decent by Dennis to get the 1. The issue is he gets traded, and I think now even the weapon can potentially be picked up.
I see a little isolated over on B. Might catch himself a timing. There's 2 players here to try and contest. They will take him down. And interestingly, Sprout not really acting on that info. Esea got himself out B single-handedly, but because of the early A control, they couldn't rotate as quickly as I think they would have liked. And now the CT side will make their presence known over on this A-bomb site. Going to be the 3-on-3. 2 AKs recovered as well. There's potential here for alternate attacks to pull this one back, to make something of this. Through the smoke goes Spitty, though. And he opens things right back up. 2 AKs to do it all. Process in the smoke. Will find the trade. Bomb down, in fact. With 30 seconds left, again, we might see time coming back to bite this Sprout roster. Spitty and Slacks to try and do it. Smokes will fade. 20 seconds left. Bomb still firmly in the grasp of the CT side. The peek is good. The double peek isolates the man, and Spitty can't do anything about it. Process will find the trade. Alternate attacks not willing to go 16-6, 16-6. They will have their 7th round. It's just not going to get any easier from here.
No, 8 more to go, just to take us into an overtime. And then even when they get the overtime, you've got to get the win there when there won't be things such as issues with the economy for Sprout. You get the win there, suddenly there's a map number 3 you still got to get through, which is not going to be easy either. Inferno, though, probably one of the better maps on paper for alternate themselves. It's just so good for Sprout as well that I don't see them being able to make that one happen. But I mean, if they somehow were managed to pull off the comeback here on Vertigo, at that point I think I'd be a lot more optimistic about the play of alternate. The only thing is, they've already lost 2 players within the opening seconds of this round. Slacks even catching one of them through the smoke, I believe, over on the ramp. Bit of damage being returned, but it's a 3-on-5 for alternate to try and keep themselves alive and in this right now. As we said, losing this matchup is a big deal. It may put them in towards relegation. And despite that 1 return there from Process, they are still on the back foot quite heavily in this round.
If anything, they need to get that round difference up, right? Something has to change. Missed nade. Process does more damage to himself than he does the enemy. This from Panics could be critical, though. He's going to catch a timing, but he's punished. Favin, oh, last second turns around and gives it up. Process now in a lot of trouble. Slacks is going to peek right into the crosshair. He'll go down. Low HP for all 3 remaining players. All a one-shot headshot for an M4, and all the presence is here, but it's too many targets. Process will be traded out, and Crystal, what have you got for us, mate? 1 and done. Sprout will have the 2-0 in the German derby. It is brutal, brutal stuff from them. And alternate attacks, I mean, we wanted to hype it up. We wanted to believe they could stay out of those relegation spots, but with that round difference, it's going to be so difficult to do so.
Yeah, I think that could actually potentially put them down below Sangal at this point. I'm not 100% sure. As I said, not too good at the math part of things, so I'm sure we'll find that out in a few moments, but it is rough. They needed that win. They needed that win pretty convincingly as well, I think, to have a chance of actually moving up the spot and overtaking LDLC again. So, yeah, definitely not the result that Alternate would have been looking for in that game.
Yeah, I mean, that was just absolutely brutal, right, across the board. I mean, from my perspective, you just couldn't take away from the fact that Sprout had such dominance across the entire series. There was just nothing that alternate attacks could do. But, of course, Pilly has been watching this one with us, and I'm hoping maybe he can give us a little more insight into what went so desperately wrong.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think, you get series like this sometimes where I don't feel like there's a whole lot to break down. I saw some cute stuff from Alternate, though, and that's something I always like about watching some of these German teams, and it seems to be a bit of a trickle-down effect from Big, and obviously, I feel like a region's style often does sort of follow the successful teams, the veterans of the scene. And obviously in Germany, we know that that's, a bit of a tactical style. You got a couple of really strong IGLs. So what I always like to see is I like to see some creativity. I like to see some cute little nade setups and set pieces and things like that. And I feel like I got a little bit of that. I saw some of those wall of smokes for the retake across that A site for alternate. Usually you just see the single smoke or the one way. They actually did a whole wall of smokes. That was pretty cute. But I feel like, well, number one, they were just a bit outgunned. This is a really rough game to have right at the end of the season in ESEA Premier for alternate attacks, especially when you're trying to avoid relegation. Sprout is arguably the top team here in ESEA Premier, a bit of a favourite to try to go forward through to Pro League, not only for this season, but a couple of seasons now. So that's rough in and of itself, but also just the way the game played out. Like, you look at some of the pistol rounds, some of the clutch situations, and then this second round bye. As soon as I saw alternate attacks lose that round after they wall of smoked across the A site there, and they had their money cooked, I was like, this series is probably over, unfortunately. Did you guys have the same sort of feeling?
Yeah. I mean, it was just brutal across the board, wasn't it? There were moments, there were chances where you thought alternate attacks could start to get back into it. It definitely did feel like at times Sprout took their foot off the gas, but it's just a complete difference in quality of the individuals, isn't it? That was what got it over the line at the end of the day. As much as Panix was trying to carry things out with that scout, there's only so much you can ask of one man, and when all 5 players are fragging for Sprout, it's just going to go their way.
Was that a bit more
I actually
convincing?
feel like Panic's been...
Sorry, Dean. Was that a bit more convincing for Sprout there? I mean, you guys have been saying, you get a bit up and down on Sprout. I mean, I think we'll get an interview with somebody or other from Sprout so we can talk to how they think about how they're going. But, we've seen them in a couple of these European tournaments outside of ESEA Premier. I saw they even won that European Development Championship, which is pretty decent result, and now they've had a pretty nice run in the Premier season. And I keep picking your brain because it's the cop out where it's like, oh, Sprout, they can win or lose any series depending how they're feeling on the day, but the form looks pretty good for me. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of confident. I'm kind of quietly confident this would be their season.
Yeah, I've got to agree. I mean, if you look back at their events recently, they haven't been having the greatest results, for example, in some of the Snow tournaments even.
Yep.
But I feel like it's good that they're just playing those because obviously you haven't brought in Slacks and Cressy. You want to get them comfortable in the team. Practice can get you to a certain extent, but you want to have some actual games where the pressure's on and where you're actually trying to make those things work in a non-practice environment where your opponents are also trying to do their best rather than just maybe testing things and stuff. So yeah, I do feel like they've definitely had a bit of a rise in form. I don't know how much I'm going to judge it off this game because Alternate just didn't really show up. What I was going to say was that you were saying Panix with that scout was trying to carry them over. He was in those rounds when they were on the weak buys, but I feel like one of the bigger issues was that he just was missing in every single gun round, especially when it came to whenever he had that AWP. At most, you'd maybe get the one from him and then he'd be traded. A lot of the time, though, this seemed like he was never really in the position where the action was even going on. So I felt like nothing clicked at all in that game for Alternate. Sprout, they done what they should have done. I don't really think I can take a lot from it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think for Alternate, expectations now sort of shift towards, I'm assuming, I'm not going to call anything because I'm not sure if all the games have been played out and then we get into the sticky situation of teams on tied score lines and round difference and head-to-head and things like that. But I would assume that we're going to see Alternates probably go into some kind of relegation games being towards the middle bottom end of the table there. So maybe they'll have a little bit better of a run, a little bit better of a chance against some of those teams that are more sort of towards the middle of the table. And my hope for them really sort of shifts now to, look, you played a pretty tough team towards the end of the season, been a bit up and down with a couple of roster changes over the season. Let's try and see if they can stick in ESEA Premier, come back next season. And, the classic Twitter copy-paste meme will come back stronger next time. And that's what I'm hoping to see from them. As for Sprout, though, Wolfie, we've had a couple of months now where you've had the new additions of the roster having to fill the void that was left there previously. And things have looked a little dicey from time to time, a little not as cohesive as you'd want from a German squad. Do you feel like they've sort of worked on some of that and rectified those issues? I was looking at some of those T-side rounds and things were just flowing so good. It was very, very snappy for me. What did you think of it?
I don't want to keep calling them consistently inconsistent because it's going to get clipped how many times I say it, but they are. And it's something that just seems to exist in this roster no matter what players they've got, right? We saw it in both of those maps. They had their foot on the throat of alternate attacks in both first halves. And then out of nowhere, I mean, on Mirage, it was the clock. On Vertigo, it was Scouts and Deagles. Things just got out of control for a split second. I do think they do a fantastic job of bringing it back, which is something they were missing in previous seasons. When they do lose that control, when they take their foot off of things, they're able to now just go, okay, guys, we need to focus up. We need to get back into this game. But I think they need to look at eliminating that from their gameplay, right? Because against an alternate Attax, you can get away with it, sure. You're better than them. Your firepower's superior. You're going to get this over the line pretty much 90% of the time. If you're coming up against teams who are more level with you or maybe even a little bit above you and you're the underdog and you're going to get into these situations and just let your foot off the gas, you're going to get punished. So I think that's definitely something they've got to look at moving forwards. It's something we've seen deny them, Pro League spots in previous seasons of Premier. It's those opportunities when you get down to that fifth map of a best of 5, you have got to be able to keep the pressure on. And that's something I really want to see from them as we head into playoffs.
Well, we had a relatively quick game there, so I'm not sure that this is going to be of much use to you, but we'll have a look at the schedule regardless, at least for a couple of the games that are running simultaneously to this one, and see whereabouts they're at. Obviously, we actually did we have a whole bunch of 2-0s? That's insane. We had a lot of quick games today. I thought this one we were going to go into this and be like, well, all of these are still running, so this is irrelevant, but Jesus, right at the end of the season, we've had a whole bunch of 2-0s, so... we could take a look at the standings overall in a minute, but we've got that Saw 2-0 over Gamer Legion. Saw was up the top of their group. Gamer Legion, they were sort of in the middle of the group. To me, that's going to be another case where Gamer Legion, similar to Alternate Attax, would have wanted to win that game, make sure that they either try to cement themselves a spot in the top 4 or avoid relegation. Not sure if that's going to be the case. And then you've got LDLC. They were the team right next to Alternate Attax, if I remember correctly, who's won their match against the bottom of the table. So I'd imagine that they're probably safe at this point. They can probably stick around in the Esea Premier for another season. And then Apex against Hellraisers, that's top of the table versus bottom of the table there. So that's a case where Hellraisers might be one of these teams that's going to be heading down to advanced or into relegations as well. So now that you're seeing this thing sort of shape up a little bit more, lads, how are you feeling about the teams heading forward into relegation? Is there any favourites that you kind of got your eye on that you feel like are going to have a little bit better of a run of things?
I mean, you look at it and you go, Alternate Attax should have a pretty good run of it if they do end up down there. I think Gamer Legion could really have a shout of making it through and coming back to Premier next season. Other teams, Nexus have had a dire season, right? They haven't won a single game. They're almost guaranteed to be going to the immediate drop down to advanced. Singularity also really struggling, probably looking at the guaranteed drop down. The only real surprises for me in Group B, we've got Sangal and Pact, both currently in the relegation zone, both 2 games to play.
Yep.
There is still a world where potentially they can start to sneak out of things, but I think for Pact, if they end up in that relegation tournament or worse, given their current seeding, potentially dropping straight into advanced, that's going to be a huge disappointment for them.
Yeah, there's a couple of teams. That's the thing, right? You look at the structure of this competition here in the round robin. 2 of these teams do just drop straight into advanced, which is a bit of a feels bad, especially if you have some, roster issues and things like that, extenuating circumstances that make it difficult for you. But then right above the bottom 2 teams out of the competition dropping down to advanced, you have a whole bunch. I think it was 4 or if not 5 teams heading through to relegation, and then only the team, I believe, 5th, sitting right under the top 4 is the team that's safe and will play next season no matter what. And then you've got the top 4 teams from each group heading through into playoffs, which is something I'm really looking forward to now. I feel like it's been an interesting couple of broadcasts. Obviously, you guys will have kept your eye on the season a little bit more than myself, not only just because you guys are a little bit more endemic to the scene. Let's face it, I'm not waking up at 3-4 a.m. to watch some of these matches. As much as I love CS, that's just not something I'm going to do. But also, you guys are covering some of the B streams, so you guys have seen a little bit more of these teams play, as well as some of the other competitions that are going around. So now that you've got a bit better of an idea, Dean, of the teams that sit into playoffs, what are you excited for in terms of the matches? Because you can already see the way the seeding's sort of shaping up, with each group to group, and get a kind of decent idea of what some of the matchups that are going to be coming up are.
Yeah, we do have a bit of an idea. Although one thing I was just thinking about there is Sangal still have 2 games to go against AGO and the Miga. Could they in theory beat out both of those teams and somehow get LDLC within the top 4?
I mean that these are the kind of things where
that
I
might
don't know if
actually
you're
be
asking
possible.
hypothetically or you're asking me. If you're asking me, please don't. I'm never going to do that maths on
Fair.
stream. That's a terrible idea.
I think that is possible though, so things could still change up a little bit, just to kind of leave that asterisk there, I suppose, before I talk about this.
Sure.
But yeah, as you were saying, things are kind of shaping up in the basic regard anyway. Sprout versus Vizsla, that's actually a really exciting opening matchup, if that's what we get to see there. Obviously, Anonymous versus Apex. I haven't got to cover a single game of Anonymous, I don't believe, so to actually get to see how Snacks is doing with those buys would be great. I think Apex also have obviously been in some pretty good form since their own roster changes, so that would be another exciting matchup. And yeah, it really looks like these playoffs are shaping up. Actually, Windstrike versus Amiga as well, so we even get a little bit of a somewhat domestic matchup there taking place. So yeah, they're shaping up really good. I do still want to see though if that's possible for things to change up if Sangal managed to just go absolutely ham in their last two games.
All right, well, something that will give us a little bit of a visual representation of whether that is possible or not is the standings overall here. So you were talking about Sangal and Pack there in Group B. Those are sort of the two teams that we're still waiting to play out some of their games or finish off some of their series. So that could definitely change the standings around there quite a bit. As for the team that's dropping down in Group B, it does look like Nexus is going to be heading back to Advanced for those guys, which is interesting to me, Wolfie, because I think I've seen Nexus for a couple of seasons now being playing Premier, so this might have been a bit of a decline for them this season in particular. I've definitely seen them floating around there in quite a while, but also quite surprised to see teams like Hellraisers and Team Singularity, obviously with the strength of Denmark at the moment, wind up there at the bottom of Group A. Is there anything that sticks out to you, and would you agree with some of that?
I mean, I think Hellraisers, you've got to point it out, right? They shouldn't be in that situation, but they're almost surviving on old reputation alone at this point. Their current roster doesn't have a lot of big names on it. Flarich is really the biggest man there. I mean, HLTV's got a big blank person and a question mark for their fifth man, so goodness only knows what's going on with them. Singularity, they've been really chopping and changing the roster recently. There's been a lot of changes since I last casted them, so I can't fairly comment. But when you do have those changes, it's so difficult to get yourselves back into a season where you're coming up against rosters like, the Sprouts of the world, the XCOM AGOs. I would say Fours, but they've swapped half their players out. So these rosters that are well established, right? They've got a decent amount of time behind them. They've played together for a while. Saws, Wind Strikes. You're not going to be able to beat them by just pugging out with a new roster that you only formed last week, or if you're chopping and changing players midway through the season. It's not going to happen. So arguably the best of threes have really exacerbated that coming into the season, and I think that's why we're starting to see the upsets versus the best of ones where, a mixed team, someone who's chopping and changing players can just pull the upset off on one map. And I'm all for it, in all honesty. I want to see the teams that persevere, the teams that work through their issues, win and get the better of it at the end of the day.
All right, we got a couple of different things floating around. We got games that are going on at the moment and games still to be played. You're talking about the format and the best of three, and we've been talking all day about ESL Pro Tour advancement and things like that. But lucky for you guys, there is one place where you can find out about all of that stuff. So esl.gg/ESEA Premier. If you do want to find out about that, it's got the prize pool. It's got all of the upcoming games in multiple different regions, just so you guys can stay up to date on all of the Premier info. So thanks to whoever does put that all in the same place. Makes it easier for myself rather than having to open 10 tabs because, I still use Google Chrome and then my PC lags and I start to cry and I forget to close the tabs and I've got 80 FPS when someone's executing a site against me. So that's a bit sad. Either way, though, what is not sad is, like I said, still a couple games to come, and you guys are covering some of those games. You got the B stream rocking over there tomorrow. So you guys remember which match that you're covering and all of that kind of stuff?
I've got it. I know what it is this week. I prepped for this and everything. We've got Windstrike Singularity over on the B stream tomorrow. So top of the group, bottom of the group, potential for some upsets to really start messing around with some of Windstrike's seedings for playoffs. Singularity really just playing for pride at this point, but why not, right? You're on the stream. Let's see if they can pull something off.
Yeah, they're right at the bottom of that group again, top of the table to bottom of the table. But you want to try to do the best that you can to avoid that instant what's the word? Getting put down into advanced, I guess, is the word I'm looking for. Either way, not many words left in the broadcast. We've pretty much gone through a pretty quick series over here in Europe, and that's going to be the end of things. So at least until NA later and the B stream, if you're a bit of a European fanatic, we will bid you adieu. Thanks for tuning in, and go get yourself some rest, boys.